Now, one thing that we do know about Kathleen Kennedy is that she is leading two Star Wars projects, that of course being Skeleton Crew and The Acolyte, both of which are said to be shows being written on a blank canvas and really shifting away from the vision of George Lucas, and exactly how this is going to be an attempt to really reach out to new Star Wars fans that have never seen the Star Wars franchise at all. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, it is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing that we do know about Skeleton Crew as a series is that it is being run by Jon Watts. He is the showrunner. He was affiliated with the Spider-Man films, and he's a great friend of Jon Favreau. Now, we already know about the whole Jon and Jon situation. In case you guys don't know, there was a really interesting problem that was happening between both Jons. We're talking about Favreau and Watts, in that they are both friends, but Watts was actually working on Skeleton Crew for a very long time, and still is to this day, and does not agree with what Kathleen Kennedy is doing with that show. And basically, Favreau also disagrees with the way things are going with that show. However, a turn of events have occurred, and a lot of things are happening with the Disney higher-ups, and exactly what's been going on with Favreau right now is actually quite a surprise, and very unexpected, and could very well spell hope for the future of this show and exactly how it's going to perform on the Disney Plus platform in 2023. So let's dive right into this. Now, we already know that everything related to, new environments and new locations are going to be a big deal now for the Skeleton Crew series and the Acolyte TV show as well. So one thing about all of this, of course, is that with, of course, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni getting ready to make some big announcements for their new shows to be showcased to fans, most recently Favreau has been making some changes behind the scenes that were approved by the Disney higher-ups and Bob Iger himself. This time around, that, of course, interfered with Kathleen Kennedy. As of late, Kennedy has been having issues with the Skeleton Crew series, with a couple of reshoots that have been taking place, and Disney has been fed up with the setbacks lately. This gave Disney the right to interfere with Favreau now coming on board to help fix a big portion of Skeleton Crew as a series, and is beginning to take over Kathleen Kennedy's show piece by piece to not only speed up production, but to also enhance the story. Now, it's noted that Favreau currently is bringing in Ahsoka Tano as well as other cameos as characters into the storyline of Skeleton Crew, and is trying to help Jon Watts. Now, let me just pause here for a second. Now, I know some people out there watching this right now are probably shaking their head like, cameos are not, a fix for a show that's being horribly written or poorly made. And I can agree with that, but what Favreau is doing is that he's not just throwing in cameos, he's also really fine-tuning the story of Skeleton Crew. And what he's doing to speed this story up is that they're doing a lot of improv, a lot of, improvising for the Skeleton Crew series now, when it comes to Jon Favreau adding in scenes and adding in new dialogue, getting last-minute cameos in there to make it make a lot more sense. We already know that the Skeleton Crew show is going to involve a mysterious location called the New Beyond. Now, we're not quite sure what the New Beyond really means. It could very well be a new galaxy. It could also refer to the unknown regions for all we know. Or it could very well be something that is entirely new that we have never seen before in the Star Wars franchise at all, not even in Legends. So the New Beyond has a lot to do with the story of Skeleton Crew and exactly how the characters are trying to find their way back home. By the way, this show is the Stranger Things in Space project by Kathleen Kennedy. Basically, it's a show that was copying the Stranger Things series on Netflix piece by piece. And that's one other thing that Jon Favreau is trying to dial down on. He's trying to kind of now really help Jon Watts fine-tune the series and give it a brand new direction. So it's a bit of a situation, it's a bit of a mess. They have to fix things here and there and kind of, you know, make some improvements. That's why Skeleton Crew has been filming for so long. They started this thing, by the way, in June. They were supposed to stop around October. And that, I mean, early October. It's already like almost middle of December and it's still going now. But thankfully Favreau is actually fixing things and patching things up. So, on top of that, the showrunner of the series, of course, Jon Watts, Favreau is said to be making the story more like a Star Wars show, to which up until before, Favreau was stepping in it, was described to be a very bland story that had no cameos and no surprises at all and no well-written dialogue. Both Favreau and Jon Watts are now working together on the Skeleton Crew series to a degree, and Watts is said to be relieved that Favreau is on board. However, Kennedy is said to be furious over the fact that Favreau is revising the script and making last-minute changes via improv as fast as possible. An additional 2 months of filming is expected for Skeleton Crew now, with Favreau on board, which is said to delay the series only by 1 whole month. Watts is described to have been unhappy with Kennedy's direction anyway, and had an actual hard time with her, of course, on hand about this. Now, the thing about Skeleton Crew, alright, is that it is going to take place in a very specific point in time in the Mandoverse. And one thing about that a lot of fans have been very, very, I guess you could say, curious about is, where is this going? Where is this story going? Where's the conflict, right? The conflict is we have a group of either teenage or preteen characters that get lost in the galaxy or lost in the New Beyond, alright? This New Beyond location is either a location that they're trying to escape or trying to get to, alright? It's either or, but all we know is that it exists in the Skeleton Crew show, and that now Jon Favreau is working with Jon Watts, a very good friend of his, to really just expand the story, make it all the more interesting. And like I said, that's the one thing that may worry me a little bit there, is that they are using a lot of improv. You know, they're improvising a lot with the characters and their dialogue and what they are filming now. And it's going to include a lot more studio shots now because, let's face it, they can't build sets immediately. They have to do some, things here and there. Alterations or variations of already established scenes. That's exactly what Favreau is doing. Now, do I think that this is going to fix the Skeleton Crew series? I'm not quite sure. Will Favreau leave eventually? Is this a permanent shoe-in for him? We're not quite sure about that also. With the Acolyte, it was a very toxic environment when Favreau and Filoni came on board in an attempt to fix things here and there. So that show, you might get a mixture of different tones, because some of John and Dave's fixes did remain, a lot of which, though, were erased by Kennedy. But for Skeleton Crew, it could very well be a better situation. We'll have to wait and see exactly what happens with all of this. So, we already know that Skeleton Crew is still slated for 2023. It's going to be delayed by 1 whole month now. They were originally trying to get this thing out, by the way, by either May or June. It's looking like to be later next year. So, with that being said, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No hiding from night to moon.